"Sir, they took my brother in a white van!" the little girl cried. Then a Hell's Angel chased them and... The rain came down hard. It hammered the road like 1,000 tiny fists, turning the highway into a river of black glass. Cole Bennett leaned into the wind, his motorcycle roaring beneath him, the only sound louder than the storm. Water ran down his neck and soaked through his leather vest. He barely felt it. He had ridden through worse. Up ahead, a small glow cut through the darkness. A diner sat alone at the edge of the road, its neon sign buzzing and flickering. The word "open" blinked red against the gray sky. Cole slowed the bike. His boots hit the wet gravel with a heavy crunch. He killed the engine and sat there a moment, listening to the rain drum against the diner roof. He was tired. Not the kind of tired that sleep could fix. The deep kind. The kind that lived in your bones and followed you for years. He pushed open the diner door. A little bell jingled above his head. Every face turned to look at him. That was how it always went. A man walked in with a face full of scars, arms covered in faded tattoos, and a leather vest that told the whole world who he was. People got quiet. A mother pulled her child a little closer. A trucker at the counter looked down at his coffee and pretended not to stare. "Before you continue listening, please let me know where in the world are you watching from today." Now, back to the story. Cole was used to it. He walked slow and steady to the corner booth, the one farthest from everyone else. He always picked the corner. From there he could see the door, the windows, and every person in the room. Old habits. The kind you never really let go of. He slid into the seat. The cracked vinyl squeaked under him. A waitress came over. She was maybe 50, with kind eyes and a coffee pot already in her hand. Her name tag said, Rose. "Cold night to be riding," she said. She didn't seem afraid of him. That was rare. "They all are," Cole said. His voice was low and rough, like gravel rolling down a hill. She smiled a little and poured him a cup without asking. "Coffee's fresh. You want food, honey, or just something warm?" "Coffee's fine." Rose nodded and left him alone. Cole wrapped both hands around the warm cup. Steam rose up and touched his face. Outside, lightning flashed, lighting up the empty parking lot and his lonely motorcycle standing in the rain. He looked at his own reflection in the dark window. A tired man stared back. Gray creeping into his beard. Lines carved deep around his eyes. 45 years old, and not one person in the world waiting for him to come home. That was the way he wanted it. Or so he told himself. People were safer without him around. He believed that all the way down to the ground. Anyone who got close to Cole Bennett ended up hurt. He'd learned that lesson a long time ago, and he'd paid for it with a piece of his heart he never got back. So he rode. Alone. Town after town. Road after road. He fixed problems for folks who needed help. Then he moved on before anyone could remember his name. He took a slow sip of the coffee. It was hot and bitter and good. Thunder rolled across the sky. The lights inside the diner flickered once, then held. Cole set the cup down and stared out at the storm. Somewhere out there, the highway kept going, dark and empty, waiting to swallow him up again in the morning. He told himself that was fine. He told himself he didn't need anything more. He almost believed it. Then the diner door flew open. The little bell didn't jingle this time. It slammed. Cold wind and rain rushed inside, and with it came a sound that cut straight through Cole's chest. Crying. High and desperate and full of fear. A tiny girl stumbled through the doorway. She couldn't have been more than 6 years old. Barefoot. her thin clothes soaked through and clinging to her small frame. Her wet hair stuck to her face. In her arms she clutched a stuffed rabbit, gray and worn, its ears flopping as she ran. Her eyes swept the room, wild and terrified. Then they landed on Cole. She ran straight to him, past the trucker, past Rose, past every other adult in the diner. She grabbed his thick arm with both little hands and looked up at him, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Sir," she cried, "they took my brother in a white van." For a moment, the whole diner froze. Then everyone moved at once. Rose set her coffee pot down with a clatter and hurried over. The trucker turned on his stool. A mother in a nearby booth pressed her hand to her chest. The air filled with soft, worried voices, all of them talking at the same time. "Oh, honey," Rose said, dropping to her knees beside the little girl. "You're soaked clean through. Where's your mama?" The girl didn't answer. She kept her grip tight on Cole's arm, her small fingers digging into the leather. Her whole body shook. "They took him," she said again. "They took Noah." Now," said an older man from the counter. He gave a gentle smile, the kind grown-ups use when they think a child is confused. "Slow down, little one. Sometimes things look scary when they aren't. Maybe your brother went off with a friend, "No," the girl's voice cracked. "He didn't. They made him get in." Rose brushed the wet hair from the girl's face. Her eyes were kind, but Cole could see the doubt in them too. She thought the child was frightened and mixed up. Most everyone did. "What's your name, sweetheart?" Rose asked softly. "Lily," the girl whispered. "Lily Harper." "Okay, Lily, that's a real pretty name." Rose kept her voice slow and calm. "Can you tell me what happened? Take a deep breath first, just like me. In and out." Lily tried. Her little chest rose and fell in shaky jumps. She hugged the stuffed rabbit tighter against her. "Me and Noah were walking home," she said. "It was raining, and a van came, a white one. It had a picture on the side, like a bird, a black bird with its wings out." Cole went still. Most kids that scared didn't remember details like that. They remembered feelings, not pictures on the side of a van. "And then?" Rose asked. "Two men got out." Lily's voice dropped low. "They had gray coats. One had a beard. They said they knew where our mama was. They said Noah should come with them." The mother in the booth shook her head sadly. "Poor thing. She's had a fright, that's all." But Lily wasn't finished. Words tumbled out of her now, fast and desperate. "Noah told me to run. He grabbed my shoulders and he looked at me and he said, 'Lily, run to the lights, run and get help and don't stop.' So I ran. I ran and I saw the sign and I came in and..." Her voice broke apart into sobs. "And now he's gone. They took him. Please, please believe me." The diner had gone quiet again. A few people looked away, embarrassed. They didn't know what to do with a crying child and a story that sounded too big to be true. "Let's get you warm," Rose said gently. "We'll call the police and they'll sort it all out. I'm sure your brother is just fine." But Lily turned back to Cole. She looked up at him with those wide, wet eyes. And Cole looked back. He'd seen a lot of fear in his life, real fear and fake fear. He knew the difference the way a man knows his own name. Fake fear had noise in it. Show. Real fear was quiet underneath, even when the crying was loud. Real fear lived deep in the eyes, in a place words couldn't reach. Lily had that fear. It was the same look he'd worn as a boy, a long time ago, back when his own world came apart and no grown-up would listen. He remembered how it felt to be small and scared and telling the truth, and to watch every adult in the room decide you were only a confused child. Nobody had believed him then. He set his coffee down. The cup made a small, final sound against the table. "I believe you," Cole said. The whole diner turned to stare at him. Lily's crying hitched. She blinked up at him. You do?" "Every word." Cole slid out of the booth and stood, tall and broad, his shadow falling over the little girl like a wall between her and the storm. He crouched down so his scarred face was level with hers. "Listen to me, Lily Harper," he said, his rough voice steady and sure. "I'm gonna find your brother. You hear me? I'm gonna bring Noah back." Lily stared at him. Then, slowly, she nodded. Cole reached out one big hand and rested it gentle on her shoulder. Just for a second. Then he stood and turned toward the door. "Mister," Rose called after him, "you can't just— it's storming. You don't even know which way they went." "White van, Blackbird, 2 men." Cole pulled his gloves from his belt and tugged them on. "It's a start." He pushed open the diner door. The bell jingled. Cold rain roared in from the dark. And Cole Bennett walked out into the storm, toward his motorcycle, ready to ride. The rain hit Cole like a fistful of nails. He'd made it 3 steps toward his bike when he heard the diner door bang open behind him. "Wait!" a small voice cried. "Mr. Biker, wait!" He turned. Lily stood in the doorway, bare feet on the wet concrete, the stuffed rabbit clutched to her chest. Rose was right behind her, reaching to pull her back inside. "Honey, no! You'll catch your death out here." But Lily slipped free and ran to Cole. She stopped in front of him, blinking against the rain, her nightgown already soaked at the hem. Cole knelt down. He shrugged off his heavy leather vest and draped it over her shoulders. It swallowed her whole, but she stopped shaking a little. "You shouldn't be out here," he said. "You said you'd find him." Her chin trembled. I gotta tell you the rest so you can find him." Cole studied her face. The kid was serious. He gave a slow nod. "Okay," he said. "Tell me. Every piece. Don't leave anything out." Lily took a breath, the way Rose had shown her. "The men. They weren't yelling. That's the thing." Her voice came steadier now that someone was really listening. "They talked soft, like they wanted us to trust them. The one with the beard, he crouched down like you're doing. He said, 'We know where your mama is.'" Cole's jaw tightened. "Your mama!" Lily nodded hard. "Mama's been gone a long time. Since I was little. Noah says she didn't leave us, she just had to go away. But I don't hardly remember her face." Her eyes filled up. "The men said she was alive. They said they could take Noah to her. And Noah, he got this look." "What kind of look?" "Like he wanted it more than anything." Lily hugged the rabbit tighter. "I told him no. I told him to stay. But he knelt down and grabbed my shoulders." She squeezed her own arms, showing how. He said, "Lily, if there's even a chance Mama's out there, I have to go. I have to make sure, but you can't come. It might be dangerous." Cole felt something twist deep in his chest. The boy hadn't been dragged. Not really. He'd walked into that van with his heart wide open, chasing the one thing every child prays for in the dark. His mother. "He went to protect you," Cole said quietly. "And to find her. He said if it was real, he'd come back for me, and we'd be a family again." Lily's tears spilled over now, mixing with the rain. "But what if it's a trick, Mr. Biker? What if they're bad men? Noah always protects me. Who's gonna protect him?" Cole reached out and gently tucked a wet strand of hair behind her ear. "I am," he said. He meant it more than he'd meant anything in years. "Which way?" he asked. "When the van drove off, which way did it go?" Lily pointed down the road, past the glowing diner sign, into the black where the highway ran. "That way, fast. It splashed water all up on me." Cole stood. He looked at the road, The storm had turned it into a river of shining black, but the diner's lights reached just far enough. And there, cutting through the puddles near the shoulder, he saw them. Tire tracks, wide ones, fresh, pressed deep and sharp into the mud along the edge where the pavement gave out. A van's weight left marks like that, heavy and hurried. The rain was already working to wash them away, but they were still there. For now... Rose caught up and wrapped an arm around Lily, drawing her back toward the warm doorway. "I'll keep her safe," Rose said. Her eyes had changed. The doubt was gone. You go on." Cole swung his leg over the bike. The engine woke with a low, rolling growl that shook the puddles. "Mr. Biker," Lily called out. He looked back. "His name is Noah," she said. "Tell him Lily sent you." Cole gave a single nod. Then he twisted the throttle, and the motorcycle leapt forward into the dark, following the fading tracks onto the black highway, into the storm, into the chase. The highway unspooled beneath Cole's wheels like a black ribbon. He rode hard, leaning into the wind, rain stinging every inch of exposed skin. The tracks had led him this far, out past the last streetlight, out where the town gave up and the world turned into empty fields and broken fences. His headlight cut a thin cone through the dark, catching the shine of wet gravel and the ghostly white lines painted on the road. He'd lost the tire marks a mile back. The rain had finally won, smearing them into nothing. But Cole knew this stretch of country. He'd ridden it 100 times in his younger years, back when he ran with men he no longer spoke to. Up ahead sat the old warehouse district, a cluster of dead buildings that had once shipped grain and machinery before the factory closed, and the town shrank around it. If someone wanted to hide, that was where they'd go. Cole slowed the bike as the first building rose out of the dark. Tall, skeleton-like, broken windows staring down like empty eyes. He killed the engine and let the sudden silence wash over him. Only the rain remained, drumming on tin roofs, running in rivers down rusted walls. He climbed off and stood still, listening. Nothing but water and wind. "Noah," he called out. His voice bounced off the concrete and came back to him alone. "Noah, you out here?" No answer. Cole moved through the alleys between the buildings, boots splashing in puddles that reached his ankles. He checked every door. Some were chained shut, rusted tight for years. Others hung open on broken hinges, swinging and creaking in the wind. He stepped inside one and swept his gaze across the dark. Old pallets, a pigeon startling up into the rafters, dust and rot and nothing else. His chest ached, not from the cold, from the fear that he'd read the road wrong, that the boy was somewhere else entirely, farther away with every passing minute. He thought of Lily's face, her wet hair, her small hands gripping that rabbit like it was the last solid thing in the world. He'd promised her. Cole pushed on, deeper into the maze of buildings. The rain began to ease, softening from a roar to a whisper. And in that quiet, he heard something. A faint, metallic ticking. The sound an engine makes when it's been running, and then stopped, cooling in the cold air. He followed it. Around the back of the largest warehouse, tucked into the shadow of a loading dock, sat a van. White, splattered with mud up to the wheel wells. The exact van Lily had described, down to the faded blue symbol painted on the side panel. Cole's heart slammed against his ribs. He approached slow, the way he'd learned to move when he didn't know what waited ahead. The van sat dark and still. No lights, no voices. He reached the driver's window and looked in. Empty. He tried the back doors. They opened with a groan of wet metal. Empty, too, but not clean. Cole leaned in and his eyes moved over everything. On the floor lay a boy's sneaker, one lace still tied, a crumpled fast food bag, a half-empty soda cup wedged in a cup holder up front. He touched the seat. Dry, mostly. And there, on the bench, sat a folded map. Somebody had drawn a route on it in blue ink, careful and deliberate. Cole's brow furrowed. He'd expected wreckage, broken glass, signs of a fight, a kid dragged in kicking, leaving scratches and torn cloth behind. That was what a kidnapping looked like. This didn't look like that at all. The sneaker was set down, not thrown. The soda was ordinary, like a stop at a drive-thru. The map wasn't hidden. It was left out in plain sight, as if the people inside had no fear of being followed, as if they had nothing to run from. Cole stood in the rain, the pieces turning slow in his mind. Noah had been here, that much was certain, but there was no struggle, no terror stamped into the metal and the seats. The boy hadn't fought. He'd come along, willing. And that meant this was something far more tangled than a little girl's word could ever have told him. The sky was still black when Cole rolled back into the diner lot. The neon sign buzzed and flickered, painting the wet pavement in tired reds and blues. Inside, most of the lights had been dimmed. The place looked smaller in the dark, quieter, like a house holding its breath. Cole pushed open the door. The little bell above it jingled. The waitress looked up from behind the counter. Dark circles hung under her eyes. She'd stayed the whole night. When she saw Cole's face, hope flickered there for just a second, then faded when she saw he'd come back alone. "Anything?" she asked, keeping her voice low. Cole shook his head. "Found the van. He wasn't in it." She let out a slow breath and nodded towards the corner booth. She wouldn't sleep. Kept asking about you, about her brother. Cole followed her gaze. There, curled up on the cracked vinyl seat, was Lily. A folded jacket lay over her like a blanket. Her eyes were open, red-rimmed and swollen from crying, staring at nothing. Her small arms were wrapped tight around the stuffed rabbit. Buttons. Its floppy ears drooped over her wrists, its one loose eye catching the dim light. The moment she saw Cole, she sat straight up. "Mr. Cole!" Her voice cracked. "Did you find him? Did you find Noah?" Cole crossed the room and lowered himself onto the seat across from her. His knees ached. His whole body felt like it had been through a storm, because it had. He looked at her small, hopeful face, and for a moment he didn't know what to say. "Not yet, sweetheart," he said finally. "But I found where he was. I'm close. I promise you I'm close." Lily's chin trembled. She pulled the rabbit tighter against her chest. "You have to find him. He's my brother. He always comes back for me. Always." "I know. He tells me nobody gets left behind." Her eyes filled. "That's what he says. He said it when Mama went away, and he said it last night before the van. He said, 'Run, Lily, run, and don't stop.'" Cole swallowed hard. His throat felt tight. He reached out slow, the way a man reaches toward a scared animal, and rested one big hand near hers on the table. She didn't pull away. "Lily," he said gently, "I need you to think for me. Did Noah say anything else? Anything about where he was going? Anything at all?" She was quiet a long moment. Then her grip on the rabbit tightened. "He said Buttons was important." Cole went still. "What do you mean, important?" "He said—" Her little brow scrunched up, trying hard to remember. "He said, 'Keep Buttons safe. Don't let go of him no matter what.' He said Buttons had a secret and I had to protect it." A tear slid down her cheek. "So I did. I didn't let go. Not even one time." Cole's heart began to pound. He looked at the rabbit with new eyes. It was old and worn, the fur rubbed thin in places, patched at the seams with mismatched thread. A child's most loved thing. But now he saw something else. One patch along the back was newer than the rest. The stitches were bigger, clumsier, done in a hurry by a hand that wasn't used to sewing. "Lily," he said softly, "can I look at Buttons? Just for a minute. I promise I'll give him right back." She hesitated, her arms locked around the rabbit like she'd never let go. Then, slowly, she held it out to him. "Be careful," she whispered. "He's all I got left of home." "I will." Cole took the rabbit as gently as if it were made of glass. He turned it over in the dim light, ran his thumb along the crooked seam. Beneath the stitching he felt something. Stiff. Flat. Something that didn't belong inside a stuffed toy. His hands were shaking now. Careful as he could, he worked the loose thread free. The seam opened. He reached 2 fingers inside, past the soft stuffing, and closed them around something smooth. He pulled it out. A photograph. Old and creased, the edges soft with age. A woman smiled up at him, holding a baby girl in her arms while a young boy leaned against her side. Her eyes were warm, kind, the same eyes Cole had been staring into all night, only grown. Evelyn Harper. Folded around the photo was a scrap of paper. Cole opened it with trembling fingers. The handwriting was young, careful, pressed hard into the page. "Whoever finds this, please, find out the truth about my mom. Don't let them bury it. Don't let Lily grow up thinking she was left behind. Please." Cole stared at the words until they blurred. Morning came gray and slow. The storm had passed, but the sky still hung low and heavy, like it wasn't ready to let go of the night. Cole sat in the corner booth with a cup of coffee going cold in front of him. He hadn't touched it. His eyes felt like sandpaper. But he was awake. Wide awake. The photograph and the note lay flat on the table between them. Lily sat across from him, her legs swinging above the floor, Buttons back in her arms. The waitress had brought her a plate of pancakes, but the little girl had only picked at them. She kept looking at the paper. At the careful handwriting she couldn't read yet, but somehow already understood. "That's Noah's writing," she said quietly. "I know, sweetheart. He hides things sometimes. Little notes. He used to leave them under my pillow." She reached out and touched the edge of the paper with one small finger. "Why did he hide it in Buttons?" Cole leaned forward, resting his big forearms on the table. He kept his voice soft, the way you'd talk to someone standing on the edge of something scary. "Because he wanted to make sure somebody would find it," he said. "He wanted to make sure the truth got out, and he knew you'd keep Buttons safe. Better than anybody." Lily's chin began to wobble. "He knew he was leaving." Her voice was barely a whisper. "He knew, and he didn't take me." There it was, the fear behind all the others, the one that had been sitting on her chest all night. "Lily." Cole waited until she looked at him, until those wide, wet eyes met his own. "Listen to me. Your brother didn't leave you because he wanted to go somewhere without you. He left the note because he loved you too much to let you be in danger." "But he said nobody gets left behind." A tear broke loose and rolled down her cheek. "He promised, and then he left me at the diner. He ran and he told me to run too, and then he was gone." Cole felt something crack open in his chest. He knew this feeling. He'd carried it his whole life. The belief that being left meant not being loved. That when the people you needed walked away, it was because you weren't worth staying for. He couldn't let this little girl grow up believing that lie. "Sweetheart," he said, "sometimes staying isn't the way you protect somebody. Sometimes leaving is." He tapped the note gently. Noah sent you to the diner because it was safe. He kept you away from that van because it wasn't. That's not leaving you behind. That's the opposite. That's a big brother throwing himself in front of the danger so it couldn't touch you. Lily was quiet. She hugged Buttons closer, thinking hard, the way children do when they're trying to fit a broken world back together. So he wasn't running away from me? No, baby. He was running toward the truth. For you. She sniffled and wiped her nose on her sleeve. A little of the weight seemed to lift from her small shoulders. Cole picked up the photograph again, studying it. The warm eyes. The gentle smile. Then he read the note one more time, slower this time. Find out the truth about my mom. Don't let them bury it. Something wasn't adding up. He turned it over in his mind, the way he'd turned the rabbit over in his hands. A kidnapped boy doesn't leave a note asking someone to find the truth. A kidnapped boy doesn't have time to sew a photo into a stuffed rabbit. A kidnapped boy doesn't tell his little sister to keep Buttons safe. Noah had planned this. Every piece of it. Cole's mind went back to what Lily said the night before. The men in the van. What they told Noah. Lily, he said carefully, keeping his voice even. Last night, when the van stopped, what did those men say to Noah? The exact words, can you remember? She nodded slowly, her brow scrunched up tight. They said... She paused. They said they knew where Mama was. They said she was alive. They said if Noah came with them, he could see her. Her voice dropped to a whisper. And Noah looked at me, and he told me to run. Cole sat back hard against the vinyl seat. The breath went right out of him. Noah hadn't been taken. He'd climbed into that van on his own, because someone had promised him the one thing he'd been praying for since the day their mother vanished. That she was still alive. The public library sat on the corner of Main Street, a squat brick building with big windows and a flag out front that hung limp in the still morning air. Cole parked the motorcycle at the curb. Lily climbed down carefully, her hand small and warm inside his. He'd found her a pair of little pink shoes at a gas station along the way, and she wore them proudly, though they were half a size too big. Inside, the library smelled like old paper and dust. A woman with silver hair looked up from behind the front desk. Her eyes went wide when she saw Cole. The leather vest, the tattoos, the scars. He'd seen that look 1,000 times. He didn't let it slow him down. Morning, he said, keeping his voice gentle. I need to look up some old newspapers. Anything from about 6 years back. The woman glanced at Lily, then back at Cole. Something in the little girl's trusting grip must have softened her, because she nodded and pointed toward a row of computers in the back. The archives are on those machines, she said. Just type in what you're looking for. Cole set Lily up in the chair beside him, Buttons propped on the desk. He typed slowly, one finger at a time. He was better with an engine than a keyboard. Evelyn Harper. He hit the button and waited. Nothing. He tried again. Harper family. Missing woman. The name of the town Lily had told him about. Story after story loaded on the screen. Car accidents, school fundraisers, a ribbon cutting at the new post office. But nothing about a mother who vanished. Nothing about Evelyn Harper at all. Cole frowned. 6 years ago, a woman disappears and leaves 2 kids behind. That was front-page news in a small town. That was the kind of story people talked about for years. Unless somebody made sure they didn't. Is Mom in the computer? Lily asked, leaning against his arm. Not yet, sweetheart. Let me try one more thing. He searched for the county records, birth certificates, property deeds, anything with the Harper name on it. The screen blinked and loaded a gray page. No records found. Cole's jaw tightened. He'd searched enough in his life to know the difference between something that never existed and something that had been wiped clean. This was the second kind. Someone had reached into the past and pulled the Harpers out of it, thread by thread, until there was nothing left to find. He leaned back in the chair, his mind working. Whoever these people were, they weren't just hiding a woman. They were erasing a whole family, and you didn't do that unless you had power, real power, the kind that could touch courthouses and newspapers and county clerks. "Mr. Cole," Lily's voice was small. "Is that bad?" He looked at her, at those wide eyes waiting to hear whether the world was still safe. "It means somebody worked real hard to hide the truth," he said. "But here's the thing, baby. When somebody works that hard to hide something, it usually means the truth is worth finding." His phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out. Unknown number. Cole stood and walked a few steps away, keeping Lily in his sight. "Yeah," he answered. There was a pause, a long breath on the other end, then a voice he hadn't heard in more than 10 years. Deep, steady, a voice that once dragged him out of a burning wreck when Cole had already given up on living. "Razor," Marcus said. "Been a long time." Cole's whole body went still. His hand tightened around the phone. "Marcus." "I heard you've been asking questions." The warmth in the voice was there, but so was something else underneath it, something cold. "About a boy. About a family named Harper." Cole glanced back at Lily. She was hugging buttons, watching him. "How'd you get this number?" "You know I got ways." A pause. "I'm calling because I care about you, brother, so listen close. You need to stop looking for that boy. Walk away. Put that little girl someplace safe and forget you ever met her. You know I can't do that. You don't understand what you're stepping into." Marcus's voice dropped lower. "Some secrets are buried because they protect people. This one goes back further than you know. It touches you, Razor. It touches your past. And if you keep digging, you're gonna dig up things you spent 30 years trying to forget." The motel room was small and smelled faintly of old cigarettes and cheap soap. 2 beds, a television that only got 3 channels, a window that looked out on a parking lot half full of dusty trucks. Cole hadn't slept much. He lay awake most of the night, listening to the little girl breathe in the bed next to his. Every time she stirred, he sat up. Every time the wind rattled the window, his hand moved toward the boots by the bed. He wasn't used to this, watching over somebody so small, so fragile. It was a weight he didn't know how to carry. Around 3 in the morning, Lily had woken up, crying. "A bad dream," she said. Something about the white van, about Noah's face growing smaller as it drove away. Cole hadn't known what to do. He'd sat on the edge of her bed like a man perched on a cliff, stiff and unsure. He'd patted her shoulder with one big hand, the way you might pet a nervous dog. "It's okay," he'd said. "I'm right here." It was the only thing he could think to say, but she'd stopped crying. She'd curled up against his arm and fallen back asleep, and Cole had sat there in the dark for a long time, not daring to move. Now morning light spilled through the thin curtains. Lily was still asleep, one arm flung out, the other wrapped tight around buttons. Cole noticed the rabbit had a tear in its side. The stitching had come loose somewhere along the road, and a little tuft of white stuffing poked out like a wound. He looked at that torn rabbit for a long moment. Then he got up quiet as he could and went digging through his saddlebag. He always kept a small sewing kit in there. A man who rode as much as Cole did learned to fix his own gear. Torn gloves, loose patches, a ripped seam in a leather vest. He'd never once thought he'd use it to fix a stuffed rabbit. Cole sat by the window in the gray morning light and threaded the needle. His hands were big and rough, covered in scars and old ink, and the needle looked almost silly held between his fingers. But he worked slow and careful. In, out, pulling the thread tight but gentle, so he didn't tear the old fabric worse. Stitch by stitch, the wound in the rabbit closed. When he was done, he tied off the thread and bit it clean with his teeth. He turned Buttons over in his hands. Good as new, maybe better. You fixed him. Cole looked up. Lily was sitting up in bed, her hair a wild mess, watching him with those big eyes. Yeah, Cole said. He held the rabbit out to her. He got a little tore up on the ride. Figured he could use some patching. Lily took Buttons and hugged him close, pressing her nose into the soft fur. She ran her small fingers over the neat row of stitches. You did it real good, she whispered. Something warm moved through Cole's chest, something he hadn't felt in a long, long time. He cleared his throat and stood up. You hungry? There was a little coffee maker on the dresser and a bag of supplies he'd grabbed from the gas station. Cole set to work. He didn't have much to cook with, but he made do. He heated water and made instant oatmeal in a paper cup, stirring in a packet of honey he'd swiped from the diner. He peeled an orange and split it into pieces. He poured her a cup of milk from the little cooler. It wasn't fancy. It wasn't even good, probably. But he set it all out on the small table like it was a feast. Lily climbed into the chair, still holding Buttons in one arm. She took a bite of the oatmeal and smiled. It's good, she said. Cole sat across from her, sipping his coffee, watching her eat. And for the first time, she wasn't hiding from him. She wasn't shrinking back or looking at his tattoos like they were something to fear. You know something, Mr. Cole? She said between bites. What's that? Noah always said good people can show up in surprising ways. She looked at him, her eyes clear and certain. He said you never know who's going to be kind to you. Sometimes it's the person you'd never guess. The clues led Cole out past the edge of town, where the roads turned to cracked dirt and the fields grew wild and forgotten. He'd gone through Noah's backpack that morning while Lily napped. The boy had left it behind in the tall grass near the diner, and inside Cole found things that made his chest tighten. A notebook filled with careful handwriting, maps with roads circled in red pen, names, dates, old newspaper clippings folded into tight little squares. Noah hadn't been playing detective, he'd been hunting. One page had a name pressed hard into the paper, underlined 3 times. Below it, an address scrawled in the corner. Cole recognized the county from his years riding these back roads. It was a place people went to disappear. He'd left Lily with the waitress at the diner. The kind woman had promised to watch her close, to keep Buttons and a plate of pancakes ready. Lily had clung to Cole's leg before he left, her small arms wrapped tight around his knee. You'll come back? She'd asked. I always come back, Cole had said. And he meant it more than he'd meant anything in years. Now his motorcycle rumbled down a lonely stretch of gravel. Dust rose behind him in a long brown cloud. The sun hung low and hot, painting the fields gold. Then he saw it. The farmhouse. It sat crooked at the end of an overgrown drive, its white paint peeled away to bare gray wood. The porch sagged. Half the windows were boarded up. A rusted tractor sat dead in the yard, swallowed by weeds. It looked like a place that had given up a long time ago, but there were fresh tire tracks in the dirt. Cole cut his engine a good distance away and walked the rest of the road quiet as he could. His boots crunched soft on the gravel. His hand stayed loose at his side, ready. He circled the house slow, peered through a gap in the boards. Empty rooms, dust floating in slanted light. Then, around back, he found a door hanging half open. He pushed it wider. Noah? he called out. His voice was low, careful. Noah, you in here? Your sister sent me. Silence. Then a floorboard creaked overhead. Cole climbed the narrow staircase, each step groaning beneath his weight. At the top, a hallway stretched into shadow. One door stood shut at the end. He crossed to it, turned the knob. And there he was. Noah sat on the floor against the far wall, knees pulled up to his chest, a flashlight and a stack of papers spread out beside him. He was thin and pale, his dark hair matted, his face streaked with dirt. But he was alive. His head snapped up, his eyes went wide, then wild with fear. Who are you? Noah scrambled to his feet, backing against the wall. How did you find me? Cole raised both hands, slow and easy. Easy, son. My name's Cole. Your sister ran into my diner 2 nights ago, screaming about a white van. He paused. She's safe. She's okay. She sent me to find you. The fear drained out of Noah's face. His whole body seemed to sag. Lily, he whispered. She's really okay? She's eating pancakes and hugging that rabbit of hers. She's fine. Cole lowered his hands. But she's scared half to death about you. Been crying every night. Noah looked down at the papers scattered around him. His jaw tightened, and when he spoke, his voice cracked. I didn't get kidnapped, he said. That's what everybody thinks, isn't it? That they grabbed me. He shook his head. I went. I got in that van because I wanted to. Cole stayed still. Why? Because they said they knew about my mom. Noah's eyes filled up, but he blinked hard, fighting it. They said she was alive, that she didn't leave us because she wanted to, that there was a reason. He gestured at the papers, his hand trembling. I've been looking for her for years, mister. Years. And these people, they had proof. Letters, pictures. He wiped his face with the back of his hand. I sent Lily to the diner so she'd be safe, Noah said. I couldn't drag her into this. If something went wrong, I needed her far away from it. His voice broke completely now. I had to protect her. She's all I've got left. Cole crossed the room, slow, and lowered himself down onto the dusty floor beside the boy. His knees popped. He was too old for sitting on hard wood. But he did it anyway, because a kid like this needed a man at eye level, not looming over him. Show me, Cole said quiet. Show me what you found. Noah hesitated. Then something in Cole's face must have earned him a sliver of trust, because the boy reached for the papers with shaking hands. This one first. He held out a photograph, its edges soft from being handled 1,000 times. Cole took it careful, like it might crumble. A woman stood in a kitchen doorway, sunlight in her hair, a baby on her hip, and a little boy hugging her leg. She was laughing at something off camera. Her whole face was open and warm. That's my mom, Noah said. That's Lily, that's me. His finger touched the little boy. I was maybe 8. Cole studied the woman's eyes. There was a fierceness in them, even mid-laugh, the look of someone who would step in front of a truck for her babies. She's beautiful, Cole said. Noah nodded and looked away fast. He shuffled through the stack and pulled out an envelope, yellowed and worn. Then there's these, letters, in her handwriting. He passed one over. I know her handwriting, mister. I've got old birthday cards. It's hers. I checked every loop and line. Cole unfolded the letter. The paper was thin as a moth's wing. The words were rushed, written in a hurry, but the message came through clear. My darlings, if you are reading this, know that I never stopped loving you. Not for one single day. What I did to keep you breathing. Someday you will understand. Watch each other. Stay together. Mama is coming home. Cole read it twice. His throat felt tight. He'd spent his whole life believing that people who left never looked back. This letter cracked that belief wide open. "There's dates on the backs," Noah said, breathless now, the words tumbling out. "See? This one's from 3 years ago. This one from last spring. She kept writing. She's been writing this whole time. She's alive, Cole. She's out there somewhere, and she's alive." Cole set the letter down gentle and picked up the next thing in the pile. It was different from the rest. Not a letter, not a photo. It was a document, official looking, the kind of thing that came from an office. Half the words were technical, numbers and account names, a company logo stamped at the top. "What's this?" Cole asked. Noah leaned in. "I don't know all of it, but look here." He pointed to a section circled in red ink, the same red pen from the notebook. "That's my dad's old company, where he worked before he left too. And these numbers, they don't add up. My mom wrote in the margin." Cole squinted at the small script crammed into the white space. "They are stealing. They are hurting people. I have proof. If I go to anyone, they will come for the children." The words landed in Cole's gut like a stone dropped down a well. He turned the page over. More notes. Names of men, some of them circled, some crossed out. A map of the county drawn by hand, with an X marked over what looked like a warehouse near the river. And at the bottom, underlined so hard the pen had torn the paper. One final line. "They know I know. I have to disappear before they make me disappear. It is the only way to keep Noah and Lily alive." Cole sat back against the wall. The whole crooked farmhouse seemed to go quiet around him. He understood now. All of it. The white van. The strangers who knew where Evelyn was. The phone call warning him to stop looking. Evelyn Harper hadn't run off because she was selfish or scared of being a mother. She'd stumbled onto something rotten, something dangerous, buried in the bones of her own family. She had proof powerful men wanted destroyed. And when she realized those men would use her children to silence her, she'd made the only choice a mother like her could make. She'd vanished, not to escape her kids, to save them. The morning came soft and gray. A thin fog hung low over the county roads, curling around fence posts and mailboxes like it wanted to hide the whole world from view. Cole's truck rumbled along the cracked highway. He'd borrowed it from a man he trusted, because you couldn't fit 2 kids and a stuffed rabbit on the back of a motorcycle. The bike would wait. Some things mattered more. Noah sat up front, the notebook open on his knees, tracing the hand-drawn map with his finger. In the back seat, Lily leaned against the window, buttons tucked under her chin. She hummed a little tune, the kind kids make up without knowing they're doing it. "Next turn's coming," Noah said. "About 2 miles." Cole nodded. His hands rested easy on the wheel, but his mind was somewhere far behind, in a place he didn't visit often. "You always this quiet?" Noah asked. Cole almost smiled. "Mostly." "Why?" The boy asked it plain, the way kids do, without meaning to poke a wound. But it poked one anyway. Cole was quiet a long moment. The fog drifted past the windshield. "When I was younger," he finally said, "I had somebody I loved, long time ago, and I lost her." His voice stayed low and steady, but something underneath it cracked. "There was an accident. I was supposed to keep her safe. I didn't." Noah went still. "After that," Cole went on, "I figured the safest thing I could do for people was stay away from them, keep my distance. I thought if I didn't get close, nobody else could get hurt on my account." "That's why you're alone?" Lily's voice came small from the back seat. Cole glanced at her in the mirror. Her big eyes watched him, curious and unafraid. Yeah, little one. That's why. The truck rolled on. A farm passed by, then a stretch of empty fields, brown and waiting for spring. But you're not alone right now, Lily said. Cole's throat tightened. He didn't have an answer for that. Turns here, Noah said, and Cole slowed and eased the truck down a dirt lane lined with bare trees. Gravel crunched under the tires. At the end sat an old post office, half boarded up, a faded sign swinging in the breeze. Mom's letters, Noah said, breathless. They were postmarked from here. Some of them, anyway. She had to be close. Cole put the truck in park, but didn't get out right away. He looked at the two of them. This brave boy carrying too much, and this little girl who still believed the world was kind. Your mama, Cole said slow. She left to protect you. I understand that better than most. Sometimes a person thinks the only way to keep folks safe is to disappear from their lives. Noah looked down at the notebook. I used to hate her for leaving. Now I don't know what I feel. She loved you, Cole said. That much I know. A woman doesn't write letters for 6 years to kids she doesn't love. Lily unbuckled her seatbelt and leaned forward between the two front seats. She set buttons on the console, right there in the middle, like the rabbit needed to hear this, too. Mr. Cole, she said, my mom went away to keep us safe, and you went away to keep people safe. But you both got it wrong. Cole turned in his seat. What do you mean, honey? Lily's little face was serious as anything. When Mom left, it didn't keep us safe. It made me scared every single night. I cried so much. Noah stopped smiling. Leaving didn't fix nothing. It just made the sad part bigger. Cole felt the words sink into him, slow and heavy. Leaving people don't protect them, Lily said. It just makes them lonely. And being lonely hurts too. It hurts a whole lot. She picked up buttons and hugged him tight to her chest. Cole sat there, the engine ticking as it cooled, the fog pressing soft against the windows. And all at once he saw it clear. The truth he'd been running from his whole life. He and Evelyn had made the very same mistake. They'd both called it sacrifice. They'd both dressed it up as love. But walking away had never once been the same thing as protecting somebody. It had only ever left a hole where a person used to be. Cole made the call from the gravel lot outside the old post office. He stepped away from the truck, boots crunching, and pressed the phone to his ear. It rang twice. Cole. Marcus's voice was calm. Too calm, like he'd been waiting. We need to talk, Cole said. Face to face. A pause. The wind carried the smell of wet earth across the empty fields. You know where, Marcus said. Cole did. There was only one place it could be. He drove the kids back to the diner first. He didn't want them near this. The waitress met him at the door, worry written all over her face, and Cole set a hand on Lily's small shoulder. I'll be back, he told her. I promise. Lily looked up at him. She held out buttons, then thought better of it and hugged the rabbit close instead. You always come back for people, she said. Noah told me. Cole swallowed hard. Yeah, little one, I do. The ride out took him deep into the hills, down a road most folks had forgotten. At the end sat a low brick building, its windows dark, its paint peeling. The old clubhouse. Cole hadn't been here in 15 years. He killed the engine and sat a moment, staring at the door. This was the place. Right here, in the gravel out front, Marcus had pulled him out of a burning wreck with his bare hands. Cole still carried the scars on his arm. He'd carried the debt even longer. Marcus was already inside. He stood by an old pool table, its felt gone gray with dust. 50 years old, broad through the shoulders, gray creeping into his beard. He looked older than Cole remembered. Tired, somehow. "Been a long time, brother," Marcus said. "Don't." Cole let the door swing shut behind him. "Don't call me that. Not until you tell me the truth." Marcus's jaw tightened. He set both hands flat on the pool table. "You told me to stop looking for that boy," Cole said, stepping closer. "You knew his name before I ever said it. You knew about the van. You knew about Evelyn Harper. So don't stand there and act like you're surprised to see me." The silence stretched long between them. "Those kids have been alone for 6 years," Cole went on, and his voice shook now, low and rough. "That little girl cries herself to sleep. That boy stopped being a kid so he could raise her. And you knew. All this time, you knew." Marcus closed his eyes. "I need you to say it," Cole said. "I need to hear it out loud. What do you have to do with any of this?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice had lost all its steel. "You remember why the club fell apart?" Marcus asked. "All those years back. You left, half the boys left, and I stayed, thinking somebody had to keep the pieces together." He shook his head slow. "There were people who came through this town. Powerful people, the kind you don't say no to. Evelyn Harper found out what they were doing. She had proof." Cole didn't move. "She came to me," Marcus said. "Scared out of her mind. 2 little kids at home and men following her car. She needed somewhere to disappear. Somewhere nobody would look." He looked up, and his eyes were wet. "I helped her, Cole. I got her out. I've kept her hidden for 6 years." The words landed like a fist. "You know where she is," Cole said. It wasn't a question. "I know where she is." Cole took a step back. His mind raced through it all. The letters, the postmarks, the van. It fit. Most of it fit. But not all of it. Cole studied his old friend's face. He'd known Marcus a long time. He knew the man's tells, the way his eyes moved when he was leaving something out. And Marcus wasn't looking at him now. He was looking at the floor, at the dusty felt, anywhere but Cole's eyes. "That's not the whole story," Cole said quietly. "You saved her. Fine. But that doesn't explain the men in the van. That doesn't explain why you called me and told me to walk away." He took a breath. "You're still hiding something, Marcus. I can see it plain as day." Marcus didn't answer. He didn't have to. The truth of it hung there in the dusty air between them. Cole turned and walked out. He didn't slam the door. He just left it open behind him, the gray light spilling across the floor. He had what he needed. Not from Marcus. From Noah. The boy had done the real work. All those quiet nights hunched over papers he wasn't supposed to have. Postmarks. A town name that kept showing up. A tiny place called Miller's Bend, 3 hours north, tucked in the folds of the hills where nobody went looking for anybody. Marcus could keep his secrets. Cole had a map. He drove back to the diner with his hands steady on the wheel and his heart pounding like a drum. Lily was pressed to the window when he pulled in. She was off the stool before the truck stopped, out the door, running across the gravel with buttons flopping in her hand. "You came back," she cried. "Told you I would." Cole knelt down. "I need you to be brave for me. Both of you." He looked past her to Noah, who stood in the doorway, careful and watchful the way he always was. "I think I know where she is." Noah's face changed, just a flicker. Hope was a dangerous thing, and the boy had learned not to hold it too tight. "You sure?" Noah asked. "No," Cole said honestly, "but I think it's worth the drive. You in?" Noah nodded once. He picked up his sister and buckled her in himself, checking the strap twice, still playing father even now. They drove north as the afternoon slipped away, The fields turned to woods. The woods turned to hills. Lily fell asleep with her head against Noah's arm, and Noah stared out the window, his jaw tight, his hands folded in his lap. "You did this," Cole said quietly, so he wouldn't wake her. "You know that? All those clues. You found her. Not me." Noah didn't look over. "I just kept a notebook." "You did a lot more than that." Cole kept his eyes on the road. "You've been carrying a whole world on your back, son. Long time now." The word slipped out before Cole could catch it. "Son." Noah went still. He blinked hard and turned back to the window, and Cole let it be. Miller's Bend wasn't much. A gas station, a church with a crooked steeple, a single road that wound past a handful of houses set far apart, each one with its own patch of land and its own quiet. Cole followed the last of Noah's directions to a small white farmhouse at the end of a dirt lane. Chickens scratched in the yard. A garden grew along the fence, tomatoes heavy on the vine. Smoke curled from the chimney. He slowed the truck to a stop. A woman stood in the garden, a basket on her hip. She was in her 40s, thin, her dark hair streaked with gray and pulled back loose. She looked up at the sound of the engine, and her hand froze halfway to a tomato. Lily woke. She rubbed her eyes. Then she saw the woman, and her whole body went rigid. "Mama," she whispered. Nobody moved. The engine ticked as it cooled. Then Lily was fighting with the buckle, fingers clumsy and frantic, and Noah reached over and freed her, and she tumbled out the door. "Mama!" The basket dropped. Tomatoes rolled across the dirt. Evelyn Harper stood frozen for one heartbeat, her mouth open, her eyes filling. Then she was running too, running across the yard, and she caught her little girl up off the ground and held her so tight it looked like she'd never let go. "My baby," Evelyn sobbed into Lily's hair. "Oh, my baby girl." Cole climbed out slow. He hung back by the truck, giving them room. Noah didn't move at first. He stood by the open door, staring at his mother, at his sister wrapped in her arms. 6 years he'd waited for this. 6 years he'd stayed strong, stayed steady, stayed the man of a house that had no man in it. And now the strength just left him. His shoulders started to shake. His face crumpled. He pressed a hand over his mouth, but it didn't stop the sound that broke loose, ragged and deep, the cry of a boy who'd finally been allowed to be a boy again. Evelyn looked up, saw him. "Noah," she breathed. He walked toward her on unsteady legs, and then he was in her arms, too, folding down against her, weeping like he hadn't wept in years. Morning came soft and golden over Miller's Bend. Cole woke on the couch to the smell of bacon and coffee. Sunlight poured through the kitchen window. For a moment he forgot where he was. Then he heard it. Lily's laugh, bright as a bell, and he remembered. He stayed where he was and listened. In the kitchen, Evelyn stood at the stove, and Lily sat on the counter beside her, swinging her feet. Noah leaned against the doorway with a cup of coffee he wasn't really drinking. The three of them fit together like puzzle pieces that had been separated too long. "You made pancakes," Lily said, like it was a miracle. "You always made pancakes on Sundays. I remembered." "You remembered." Evelyn's voice caught. She brushed a curl off Lily's forehead. "You were just a tiny thing. I didn't think you'd remember much of anything." "I remembered everything." Lily's voice went quiet. "I remembered you said you'd come back. And you didn't." The kitchen went still. Cole almost stood up. Almost gave them their privacy, but Evelyn set down her spatula and turned to face her daughter, and something in her face said this was a moment that had to happen. "I know, baby," Evelyn said. "I know I didn't, and I have to tell you why, Both of you." She looked at Noah, and he pushed off the doorway and came closer, careful, watchful, the way he always was. Evelyn sat down at the little kitchen table. She patted the chairs beside her. Lily climbed down and crawled into her lap. Noah sat across from her, his hands wrapped around the coffee cup. "When you were little," Evelyn began, "I found out about some bad things. Things some powerful people were doing. Things they'd hurt people to keep hidden." She swallowed. "I found papers. Proof. And I was going to tell somebody. But then I noticed a car parked outside our house. Same car, every day. Men I didn't know, watching our windows. Watching you two walk to school." Noah's knuckles went white around the cup. "I got scared," Evelyn whispered. "Not for me, for you. I thought if I stayed, they'd use you to keep me quiet. I thought the only way to keep you safe was to make them think I'd run off alone, that I didn't care about you anymore." Her voice broke clean in half. "So I let you believe the worst thing a mama can let her children believe, that I left because I wanted to." "You didn't want to?" Lily said. It wasn't a question. Not for 1 second. Evelyn pressed her lips to the top of Lily's head. "I wrote you letters every single week. 6 years of letters. I never mailed them. I couldn't. But I kept every one, so you'd know someday. So you'd know you were never, ever forgotten." Noah's jaw worked. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough. "I thought it was my fault. I thought maybe if I'd been better, you'd have stayed." "Oh, Noah." Evelyn reached across the table and took his hand. "None of it was your fault. You were a child. You were my brave, sweet boy, and I asked too much of you without ever asking at all." She held his hand tight. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for the years I stole. I can't give them back. But I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere ever again." Noah didn't pull his hand away. He just held on. And slowly, the tight lines around his eyes softened, like something he'd been carrying for years was finally set down. Cole watched from the couch, quiet as a shadow. He saw the way Lily curled into her mother, the way Noah finally let himself lean, the way the three of them made a shape that didn't have a space in it for a stranger. Something warm rose in his chest, and right behind it, something that ached. They had each other now. A real family, mending itself right there at a sunny kitchen table. This was the whole point. This was what he'd driven north for. This was what came at the end of the road. His job was done. Cole rose slow and quiet. He folded the blanket he'd slept under and laid it neat on the arm of the couch. He found his boots by the door and picked them up so they wouldn't clomp. His keys were on the table by the window, and he closed his fist around them softly so they wouldn't jingle. Then he stepped out onto the porch, easing the screen door shut behind him, and walked toward his truck under the wide morning sky. The gravel crunched under Cole's boots as he crossed the yard. His truck sat where he'd parked it, dusty and patient, the way it always was. He reached for the door handle. Then he heard another engine. A car came up the long dirt drive, slow and careful, kicking up a thin cloud behind it. Cole's hand froze on the handle. He knew that car. Dark and clean, the kind a man drove when he wanted people to take him serious. Marcus. The car rolled to a stop a few feet from the porch. The door opened, and Marcus Vale climbed out. 50 years old, silver at the temples, still standing straight as a fence post. He wore a leather jacket worn soft with age, and his face was the same face that had pulled Cole out of a burning wreck 20 years back, the face of the man Cole owed his life to. "Cole," Marcus said. Just that, just his name. Behind Cole, the screen door opened. Evelyn stepped out onto the porch with Lily on her hip and Noah close behind. She stopped when she saw Marcus. Her whole body went still. "Marcus," she said. Her voice was careful. "You found us." I did. Marcus took off his sunglasses and folded them into his pocket. He looked tired, older than his years. Wasn't easy. You covered your tracks good, Evie. Always were the smart one. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Lily wiggled down out of her mother's arms and peeked around the porch post at the newcomer. Are you here to help us? Lily asked. Simple, trusting, the way only a child could ask. Marcus looked at her, and something crossed his face. Something that might have been pain. That's what I always told myself, he said softly. That I was helping. Cole felt a cold prickle crawl up the back of his neck. He'd been ready to believe, ready to think Marcus had driven all this way to stand beside them, to fix whatever was left broken. But there was something in the man's voice, something bent. Marcus, Cole said slow. Why are you here? Marcus didn't answer right away. He looked at Evelyn. He looked at Noah, tall and watchful in the doorway. He looked at Lily, small and hopeful in the sunlight. And then he looked at Cole, and his shoulders sagged like the weight had finally gotten too heavy to carry. The van, Marcus said. The men who took Noah. You want to know who sent them? He let the question hang there. I did. The words landed like a stone dropped in still water. Noah stepped forward. What? I sent them. Marcus's voice was rough. I've been watching this family for 6 years, son, since the day your mama ran. I was the one who kept the search going. I was the one steering it. Every lead that got buried, every door that closed, that was me. Cole felt the ground shift under him. You told me to stop looking, he said. On the phone, that was you. That was me. Why? The word came out of Cole like it hurt to say. Marcus rubbed a hand over his face. Because I knew what Noah would find if he kept digging. I knew what was in those papers Evelyn hid. He looked at Evelyn, and his eyes were wet. The truth wouldn't just hurt the powerful men who wanted it buried. It had hurt her. It had hurt these kids. So I made sure nobody ever put the pieces together. I hid it. All of it. For years. You hid my mother from me, Noah said. His voice shook. You knew where she was. You knew she was alive. And you let me think. I let you think she was gone because I believed the truth would tear you apart worse than the lie. Marcus's voice cracked. I thought I was protecting you, all of you. Cole stared at the man who'd saved his life. The man he'd trusted more than anyone breathing. And he felt something split open inside his chest, wide and cold. You let a 6-year-old cry in a diner, Cole said quietly. You let that boy climb into a stranger's van chasing a ghost, and you called it protecting. Marcus didn't look away. Yes, he whispered. I did. The silence stretched long and thin. Somewhere out in the fields, a crow called once and went quiet. Marcus reached into his jacket. Slow. Careful. He pulled out a folded envelope, thick and worn at the corners. Cole recognized it right away. The papers Noah had found. The letters. The photograph. Everything Evelyn had hidden and Noah had spent years chasing. I've got the rest, Marcus said. He held the envelope up so they could all see it. The originals. The pieces nobody else has. Without these, there's no proof of anything. No case, no danger. Just a family that can go on living quiet. Evelyn's face went white. Marcus, no. Hear me out, Evie. He turned to Cole, and his voice dropped low. I'm not the villain here, Cole. I never was. I made a hard choice a long time ago, and I've carried it every single day since. Now I'm asking you to trust me one more time. Trust you, Cole repeated. The words tasted like ash. You walk away, right now, today. You get on that bike and you ride out of here and you never come back. Marcus tucked the envelope back into his jacket, and his eyes went hard as flint. "And if you don't, I make sure the wrong people learn exactly where Evelyn Harper's been hiding. I make one phone call, and everything I spent 6 years burying comes back up. For all of them." Cole felt his hands curl into fists at his sides. "You'd do that. To her. To these kids." "I'd do it to keep them alive." Marcus's jaw tightened. "You think those powerful men just gave up? They're still out there, Cole. Still watching. The only reason this family's breathing is because I kept the trail cold. You blow it open now and I can't protect anybody." Lily had gone quiet on the porch. She pressed against her mother's leg, her thumb creeping toward her mouth, her eyes big and scared. Noah stood frozen in the doorway, his fists shaking. Cole looked at the man who'd pulled him from a burning wreck 20 years back. The man who'd stayed by his bed in the hospital. The man who'd taught him what loyalty meant when Cole had nothing left to believe in. He owed Marcus his life. That was a debt written in fire and blood, and it did not wash away. But he looked at Lily, too, at the way she gripped buttons so tight her knuckles went pale, at the terror he'd seen in her face that first night in the diner, the same terror he'd carried as a boy. 2 debts, pulling him in 2 directions, and he could not honor both. "Marcus," Cole said. His voice came out rough and quiet. "You saved me once. I never forgot it. I never will." "Then listen to me now." Cole was silent a long moment. The wind moved through the grass. Lily's small voice broke it. "Mr. Cole," she said, "are you leaving?" He couldn't answer her. He couldn't look at her, because Marcus was right about one thing. Everywhere Cole went, trouble followed. Every person he ever cared about ended up hurt. And now here he stood. And if he stayed, if he fought, he might be the very thing that brought those men down on this family. He might be the reason they got taken. Or worse. Maybe the kindest thing he could do was go. "I need some time," Cole said. The words felt like glass in his throat. He looked at Evelyn, then at Noah, then finally at Lily. "I'm sorry." "Cole." Evelyn stepped forward. "Don't." But he was already moving, already crossing the gravel to where his motorcycle leaned against the fence. He swung a leg over, and the engine caught with a growl that felt too loud in the still afternoon. He did not look back. He couldn't. If he saw Lily's face, he wouldn't be able to leave, and leaving felt like the only way to keep her safe. The bike carried him down the long dirt drive and out onto the open road. Night came slow. Cole rode until the sky went black and the stars came out cold and far away. He pulled off onto a lonely stretch of highway and killed the engine. The quiet pressed in on him, heavy as a wet coat. He sat there in the dark, straddling his bike, and he stared at the empty road ahead. Failed. He'd failed them. Lily had come running to him for help, had put her small, trusting hand on his arm, and in the end, he'd done what he always did. He'd left. Maybe that was all he was good for. Maybe Marcus had it right all those years. Maybe some men were built only to bring pain to the people they got close to, and the only mercy they could offer was distance. Cole bowed his head, and for the first time in longer than he could remember, the tough old biker felt tears sting hot behind his eyes. Morning came gray and soft over the farmhouse. Dew hung on the grass like tiny beads of glass. Inside, the kitchen smelled of coffee gone cold and bread nobody had touched. Lily sat at the table, swinging her small legs. Buttons sat in her lap. One ear flopped over from where Cole had sewn it back the week before. She kept touching that ear, running her thumb over the neat little stitches he'd made. "He didn't leave," she said. Evelyn looked up from the sink. Her eyes were red. She hadn't slept. "Baby, come eat something." He didn't leave, Lily said again. Louder this time. She hopped down from the chair and hugged Buttons to her chest. Noah. He didn't. Noah stood by the window, arms crossed, staring out at the empty drive where the motorcycle had been. His jaw was tight. He'd spent the night going over it in his head. Cole was gone. Grown-ups left. That was just the way of it. He'd learned that lesson young and hard. But he looked at his little sister now, at the fierce set of her mouth, and something in his chest ached. Lily, he said gently, sometimes people go. No. She stamped her bare foot on the wood floor. He told me. He said he fixes things and he comes back. He said. Her chin trembled, but she didn't cry. She just held Buttons tighter. Noah, he came back for us before. When the van took you. He came. He always comes back. Noah opened his mouth to argue, then closed it, because she was right. Cole had come. Every single time, when it would have been easier to walk away, the big, scary biker had turned his bike around and come back. Nobody made him. He just did. Noah felt something crack open inside him, a small, stubborn hope he'd been too scared to hold. Okay, he said quietly. Lily blinked up at him. Okay? Okay. Noah grabbed his jacket off the chair. Let's go find him. Evelyn set down her cup. Noah. He wouldn't leave for good, Mom. Not really. Noah's voice was steady now, sure in a way it hadn't been in years. He just thinks he has to. There's a difference. They walked out into the pale morning. Lily's hand fit small and warm in Noah's. She carried Buttons under her other arm, like a soldier carrying a flag. They walked down the long dirt drive, past the fence where the motorcycle used to lean, out onto the road that ran straight and lonely toward the hills. How do we know where he went? Lily asked. Noah thought about it, about the man who'd sat with them on the porch some evenings, watching the sun sink, about the way Cole always looked toward high places, places where you could see far and think clear. There's an overlook, Noah said, up on the Ridge Road. Cole took me up there once, said it was the best spot for miles to sit and be quiet. He squeezed her hand. If he stopped anywhere close, he'd stop there. They walked a long time. The sun climbed. Lily's feet hurt, but she didn't say a word. She just kept going, one small step after another, Buttons pressed to her heart. And then they came around the last bend, and there he was. Cole sat on a low stone wall at the edge of the overlook. His back was to them. His shoulders were slumped, his head bowed. His bike leaned nearby, quiet and cold. Below him, the whole green valley spread out wide and gold in the morning light. He looked, Lily thought, like the loneliest man in the world. She let go of Noah's hand, and she ran. Mr. Cole! He turned. His face went slack with shock. Lily! Lily, what are you? She reached him and stopped just short, breathing hard, her cheeks pink from the long walk. She held Buttons up in both hands, offering him like the most precious thing she owned. You forgot, she said. Cole stared at her. Forgot what, darlin'? You promised. Her voice shook, but her eyes were fierce and clear. You said you always come back for people. Noah told me. You came back for him. You came back for me. A tear slid down her cheek, but she smiled through it. So I came to find you. 'Cause you were taking too long. Cole's chest went tight. His breath caught. This tiny girl, barefoot and brave. She had walked miles down an empty road because she believed in him. She believed in him more than he had ever, in his whole broken life, believed in himself. The road back to the farmhouse felt different this time. Cole rode slow, Noah tucked behind him on the seat, Lily riding safe in the sidecar with Buttons buckled beside her like a passenger of his own. The wind pushed against them. The valley rolled by green and endless. But Cole's hands were steady on the grips, steadier than they'd been in years. Something had settled in his chest up there on that ridge. Something quiet and sure. He'd spent his whole life believing that leaving was the kindest thing he could give the people he loved, that his shadow was too dark to sit beside anything good. A 6-year-old girl with a torn, stuffed rabbit had proved him wrong. She'd walked miles for him, believed in him when the whole world had spent 45 years teaching him he wasn't worth believing in. He wasn't going to let her down. Not for anything. Not even for the man who'd once saved his life. When they pulled into the drive, Marcus was already there. He stood on the porch beside a black car Cole didn't recognize. His arms were folded. His silver hair caught the light. He looked calm. He always looked calm. That was the thing about Marcus. He could hide a storm behind a still face better than any man Cole ever knew. Evelyn stood in the doorway, her hand pressed to her mouth. Cole cut the engine. The silence that followed felt heavy as stone. "Take Lily inside," he said quietly to Noah. Noah hesitated. His eyes moved from Cole to Marcus and back. Then he nodded. He lifted his sister from the sidecar and carried her up the steps, buttons dangling from her hand. She twisted around to watch Cole the whole way in. The door closed. Cole climbed off the bike. He walked toward the porch, slow, his boots crunching on the gravel. "You came back," Marcus said. There was no surprise in it, only tiredness. "I hoped you wouldn't." "I know you did." Marcus unfolded his arms. In his hand was a thick envelope. The evidence, Evelyn's evidence, the truth Noah had bled for. "You remember that night, Cole? The night the whole thing went sideways and you were bleeding out on that warehouse floor? I carried you 3 miles. I didn't have to. I did it anyway." "I remember." "Then you know what you owe me." Marcus's voice dropped low. "I'm asking you to walk away. One last time. For me. For everything we were." Cole stopped at the bottom of the steps. He looked up at the man who'd once been the closest thing he had to a brother. And for a long moment, he felt the pull of it. The old loyalty. The weight of a debt that had lived in his chest for 20 years. Then he thought of Lily's face. The way she'd held buttons up to him, like an offering. You always come back for people. "I owe you my life, Marcus," Cole said. "That's true. I've carried it a long time." He took a slow breath. "But I've been thinking about what loyalty really means. All the way up on that ridge I thought about it, and I figured something out. Cole, loyalty isn't protecting a man's mistakes." Cole's voice was steady and calm. "It's not helping him hide from the truth. That's not brotherhood. That's just fear wearing a nicer coat." He stepped up onto the first stair. "Real loyalty means doing what's right, even when it costs you, especially then." Marcus's jaw tightened. "You think I don't know what's right? I spent years keeping those kids alive, keeping Evelyn alive." "You kept them scared," Cole said. "You kept them in the dark. You told yourself it was protection. I know that lie, Marcus. I told it to myself for 45 years. Right up until this morning when a little girl walked 5 miles to remind me I was wrong." Something flickered across Marcus's face. A crack in that still careful mask. "You confused hiding with saving," Cole said quietly. "Just like I did. And it didn't protect anybody. It just left a whole lot of hurt behind." Marcus looked down at the envelope in his hand. His fingers loosened around it, just slightly. His shoulders, so straight a moment before, began to sag. "I thought," he started. Then stopped. He swallowed hard. I thought I was doing the right thing. I know, Cole said. That's what makes it so hard to see. Marcus stared at the envelope a long time, and for the first time in all the years Cole had known him, the man looked lost. The wind moved through the tall grass beside the drive. Somewhere far off, a bird called once and went quiet. Marcus lowered himself onto the top step. Slow, like the weight of all those years had finally found his shoulders and settled there for good. He held the envelope loose in both hands, staring at it as if it were something alive. "You want the truth," he said. "All right. Then sit down, Cole, because it's a long one, and I don't have it in me to say it standing up." Cole climbed the last of the steps and sat beside him. Not close, but not far either. Two old men on a wooden porch with the whole history of their lives stretched out between them. Marcus was quiet a moment. Then he began. "Evelyn came to me 6 years ago," he said. "Scared out of her mind. She'd found something. Papers, records, proof that some powerful people in that town were breaking the law, hurting folks, and covering it up clean." He shook his head slow. "She wanted to take it to the police. But she found out someone was watching her house, watching the kids walk to school. She came to me because I was the only person she thought could keep her family safe." His voice caught. He pressed on. "I told her to run. I told her the only way to keep Noah and Lily alive was to disappear, to let them believe she'd left them." He closed his eyes. "God help me. I believed it. I honestly believed it. So I helped her vanish. I moved her from place to place. I kept the evidence buried where nobody could find it. And I told myself every single day that I was saving that family." "But you weren't," Cole said. "Not cruel. Just true." "No." Marcus's hands trembled around the envelope. "I wasn't. I let 2 children grow up thinking their mama walked out on them. I let a boy carry a weight no boy should carry. I watched a little girl stop believing anybody would ever come back for her." He swallowed hard. "And the worst part, Cole? The worst part is I could have brought it to light years ago. The men she was afraid of, half of them are dead now. The other half don't hold the power they used to. The danger passed. But I didn't move, because I was scared. Scared that if the truth came out, everyone would see what I'd done, that I'd stolen 6 years from that family for nothing." The old man's face crumpled. A single tear cut a line down his weathered cheek, and he did nothing to stop it. "Fear got into me," he whispered, "and it never let go. I called it protection. I dressed it up nice, but you had it right. It was fear wearing a nicer coat. That's all it ever was." Cole didn't say anything. He didn't need to. He just let the man sit in it, the way somebody has to sit in a hard truth before they can climb back out of it. The door behind them creaked. Cole turned. Evelyn stood there, tears shining in her eyes. She'd heard. All of it. But she didn't look angry. She looked like a woman who'd been holding her breath for 6 long years and had finally let it out. Marcus looked up at her. "I'm sorry, Ev," he said, his voice breaking clean apart. "I'm so sorry. I thought I was helping." "I know you did," Evelyn said softly. Marcus turned back to Cole. He looked down at the envelope one more time. Then, slow and steady, he held it out. "Take it," he said. "All of it. The papers, the records, everything. I'll come with you. I'll tell them what I did. Every piece of it, no matter how it lands on me." His jaw firmed up, and for the first time that day, something like strength returned to his eyes. "I spent 6 years hiding the truth to protect myself. I'm done. Let's set it right." Cole reached out and took the envelope. It felt heavy in his hands. heavy with everything it carried. "Together," Cole said. Marcus nodded. Together. The kitchen table had seen better days. One leg wobbled, and somebody had propped it up with a folded matchbook years ago. But that morning, it held something more important than any table had a right to hold. The truth. Evelyn spread the papers out one sheet at a time. Her hands moved slow and careful, like she was handling something sacred. Records, bank statements, photographs of things nobody was ever supposed to see. Letters she'd written in the dark, 6 years of them, tucked away in a coffee can she'd carried from town to town. Marcus laid his part beside hers. Everything he'd buried. Everything he'd hidden. He set each piece down like he was setting down a stone he'd been carrying too long. Noah stood at the end of the table, his young face tight with concentration. He pulled out his own folder. Clippings, notes, names he'd scribbled in the margins of a school notebook late at night when he was supposed to be sleeping. "I found some of this too," Noah said quietly. He looked at his mother. "I never stopped looking for you." Evelyn reached across the table and covered his hand with hers. Her eyes filled. "I know, baby. I know you didn't." Lily sat on Cole's knee, clutching buttons against her chest. She didn't understand all the papers, but she understood the feeling in the room, the way the grown-ups spoke soft, the way her mama kept touching Noah's hand like she was afraid he'd disappear. "Is this gonna fix everything?" Lily whispered. Cole looked down at her. His big, rough hand rested gentle on her back. "It's gonna tell everybody the truth, sweetheart. That's the first thing. Everything else comes after." They worked through the morning. Piece by piece, they laid it all out in order. Cole watched Marcus check each page twice, making sure nothing got missed. The old man's hands didn't shake anymore. There's a strange kind of peace that comes when a person finally decides to stop hiding. By noon, it was ready. The courthouse in town was a plain brick building with worn steps and a flag that snapped in the wind. Cole parked his motorcycle out front and helped Lily down. Evelyn walked up the steps with Noah at her side. Marcus came last, slow but steady, carrying the envelope. Inside, the reporters had gathered. Word travels fast in a small town. A woman thought gone for 6 years, walking back into the light with proof in her hands. People filled the room. Some of them were the very folks who'd whispered about the mother who'd abandoned her babies. Evelyn stood at the front. She was scared. Cole could see it in the way she gripped the edge of the table, but she lifted her chin anyway. "My name is Evelyn Harper," she said. Her voice trembled, then steadied. 6 years ago, I didn't leave my children because I stopped loving them. I left because I found the truth about powerful people in this town, and I was afraid they would hurt my babies to keep me quiet. The room went dead silent. She laid the papers out one by one. The records, the proof. She spoke of what she'd found and what it had cost her. She spoke of the letters she'd written to children who'd never gotten to read them. Then Marcus stepped forward. Every eye turned to him. "I helped her hide," he said, plain and unashamed. "I thought I was protecting her family, but I let 2 children believe a lie for 6 long years. That's on me, nobody else. And I'm here to make it right." Cameras flashed. Pens scratched. A reporter in the front row wiped her eyes. When it was over, the room broke into a low murmur that swelled into something warm. People who doubted Evelyn now looked at her with shame for having doubted at all. The truth had walked into that room, and it had changed everything it touched. Outside on the courthouse steps, Evelyn pulled both her children close. Noah didn't try to be strong anymore. He just held on. Lily buried her face in her mama's shoulder, buttons squeezed between them. Evelyn's name was clear. The secret was gone. And for the first time in 6 years, the Harper family stood in the open with nothing left to hide. Word traveled fast, the way it always does in a small town. By the next morning, everybody knew the story. The mother who came back, the old man who confessed, and the biker who chased a white van down a dark highway to save a boy nobody else believed was in danger. Cole noticed the change slow at first. He stopped at the hardware store for a new bolt to fix Evelyn's kitchen table, the one with the wobbly leg. The man behind the counter, a fellow named Earl, who used to watch Cole like he might steal something, slid the bolt across without a word about payment. "On the house?" Earl said. He cleared his throat, looked down at his hands. "I heard what you did. For those kids." He met Cole's eyes then, and there was something in his face that hadn't been there before. Respect, maybe a little shame, too. "I judged you wrong, mister. I'm sorry for that." Cole didn't know what to say. He'd spent his whole life being the man folks crossed the street to avoid. He nodded, took the bolt, and left before his throat got too tight to speak. It kept happening. At the gas station, a young mother who once pulled her child close when Cole walked by now smiled and waved. On the sidewalk, an old woman with a cane stopped him just to shake his hand. Her grip was small but strong. "You're the one," she said, "the one who brought that family back together." "No, ma'am," Cole said quiet. "They brought themselves back. I just rode alongside." But she wasn't having it. She patted his tattooed arm like he was her own grandson. "Nonsense. I've lived in this town 70 years. I know a good heart when I finally see one." Cole walked away with his chest feeling strange and full. For years he'd believed the leather vest and the scars told people everything they needed to know. He'd believed his face was a warning, a locked door. He'd worn that belief like armor because armor was easier than hoping somebody might look closer. Now folks were looking closer, and what they saw wasn't a danger. It was a man who stayed. That afternoon, the sky went soft and gold. Cole climbed on his motorcycle and let the engine growl to life beneath him. He didn't have anywhere he had to be. But his heart pulled him one direction, and he followed it. The way he'd learned to follow the good instincts instead of the fearful ones. He rode out to the diner. The same diner where a barefoot little girl had burst through the doors clutching a stuffed rabbit, screaming that they took her brother. The same corner booth where he'd sat alone, believing he'd always sit alone. The bell above the door jingled when he stepped inside. The whole place turned to look. But this time, nobody flinched. Nobody looked away. The waitress, the same kind woman who'd followed behind him that stormy night with Lily in her car, came around the counter fast. Her eyes were already wet. "Well, look who it is," she said, her voice cracking. She wiped her hands on her apron and then just gave up and threw her arms around him. Cole stiffened, then slowly let himself hug her back. "You big, wonderful fool. You went after that van. You believed her when the rest of us didn't." "You believed her too," Cole said gently. "You stayed with her. You drove behind me all night." "Because you showed me how." She pulled back and looked up at him. "You reminded a whole diner full of people what it looks like to do the right thing." From behind the counter, the cook leaned out through the window. He was a big man with a graying mustache, and he'd never said 2 words to Cole before. "Your money's no good here," the cook called out. "Not today, not ever. You hear me? Anything you want." An old trucker at the counter raised his coffee cup. "To the man on the motorcycle," he said, "thank you, brother, for saving that boy, for protecting that family." One by one, the folks in the diner lifted their cups. And Cole Bennett, who'd spent 45 years believing he was only good for scaring people, stood in the warm light and let himself be thanked. The weeks that followed felt like something Cole had never known before. They felt like belonging. Evelyn's house sat at the edge of town, a small place with peeling white paint and a porch that creaked when you walked on it. But it was full now, full of light, full of noise, full of the ordinary sounds a family makes when it is learning how to be a family again. Cole came by most days. He fixed the wobbly kitchen table with Earl's bolt. He patched the hole in the porch step. He rehung a screen door that had hung crooked for years. Small things. But every small thing seemed to knit the broken pieces back together. And then there was Noah. The boy had spent so long carrying weight no 15-year-old should carry. Cole saw it in the way Noah held his shoulders, tight and high, like he was always bracing for the next bad thing. He saw it in the way the boy answered questions with just a few words, like he was afraid of taking up too much room. So Cole did the only thing he knew how to do. He gave Noah a purpose. "Come here," Cole said one Saturday morning. He'd rolled his motorcycle into the gravel drive and popped open his old toolbox. The metal case was dented and scratched, worn smooth from decades of use. "This old girl's been making a sound I don't like. Figured you might help me find it." Noah blinked. "Me? I don't know anything about bikes." "Nobody does till somebody shows them." Cole crouched down beside the engine and patted the ground next to him. "Sit. Watch. Get your hands dirty." Noah sat. At first the boy was careful, nervous, afraid to touch the wrong thing. His fingers hovered over the metal like it might bite him. "You can't break it worse than it already is," Cole said, and something in his voice made Noah laugh. A real laugh. The first one Cole had heard from him. They worked through the whole morning. Cole showed him how to listen to an engine, how a machine tells you what's wrong if you just pay attention. He showed him which bolt to loosen and which to leave alone. He wiped grease from his own hands and pressed a wrench into Noah's palm. "Your turn," Cole said. "I'll talk you through it." Noah's hands shook a little, but he did it. He found the loose part, tightened it, and when Cole started the engine, the bad sound was gone. The boy's whole face changed. "I fixed it," Noah said, quiet, like he couldn't quite believe it. "I actually fixed it." "You did?" Cole clapped a heavy hand on the boy's shoulder. "You got good hands, kid, and a good head. Don't let anybody tell you different." Noah looked down at the grease under his nails, and for a moment his eyes went shiny. "Nobody ever taught me stuff like this before," he said. "My dad, he left when I was little, and I always figured I had to know everything myself, had to be the grown-up." He swallowed hard. "It's kind of nice, having somebody show me." Cole felt that tightness in his throat again, the one that kept catching him lately. "You don't have to carry it all alone anymore," Cole said. "That's the thing about family. You take turns. You lean on each other." Noah nodded slow. Then he leaned his shoulder against Cole's arm, just for a second, just long enough to say what he couldn't put into words. A few days later, the town held its harvest fair in the park downtown. Booths lined the grass. Kids ran with balloons. The smell of fried dough and popcorn drifted through the warm afternoon air. Cole almost didn't go. Crowds still made him uneasy. But Lily had asked him with those big, earnest eyes, and he found he couldn't tell her no. He stood near a lemonade stand, feeling too big and too rough among all the smiling families when Lily came running up. She grabbed his hand and tugged him toward a group of children and their parents. "This is him," Lily announced, her voice ringing out proud and clear. She held Buttons in one arm and Cole's hand in the other. "This is Mr. Cole. He's the one who saved my brother. He protected our whole family. He's ours now." The little group went quiet. Then the parents smiled. The children stared up at him with wide, wondering eyes, like he was something out of a storybook. And Cole stood there, his big scarred hand swallowed up in Lily's small one, and felt the truth of it settle deep in his chest. He wasn't alone anymore. He was part of something bigger than himself. Months slipped by like water over smooth stones. The seasons changed. The leaves turned gold, then fell. The air grew crisp and cool. And through it all, Cole kept coming back to the little house at the edge of town. The way a man returns to something he has finally learned he can trust. Today, the town gathered in the community hall for the autumn potluck. Long tables lined the walls, heavy with casseroles and pies and steaming pots of soup. Paper lanterns hung from the rafters. Somewhere in the corner, a fiddle player warmed up, drawing out a slow, sweet tune that made the whole room feel warm. Cole walked in wearing his leather vest. He still wore it, the same scarred, patched leather he had worn for 25 years, the same one folks used to cross the street to avoid. But something about the man inside it had changed. He no longer stood in corners. He no longer kept his back to the wall, watching for trouble, waiting for the moment he would need to leave. He walked through the crowd, slow and easy, nodding at faces he now knew by name. Earl waved to him from beside the coffee urn. The waitress from the diner, Ruth, called out a hello and pointed him toward the pie table with a grin. Cole grinned back. That was the thing nobody would have believed a year ago. Cole Bennett, smiling in a room full of people. Belonging. Lily spotted him from across the hall and came running, her shoes clicking on the wood floor. She had grown a little taller. Buttons still tucked under one arm, though the old rabbit was more patch than fur now, mended so many times by Cole's own rough hands. "Mr. Cole, you came!" She threw her arms around his leg. "Course I came." He knelt down to her level, his knees popping. "You think I'd miss your mama's apple pie? I've been dreaming about that pie all week." Lily giggled. "She made 2. One's just for you. She said so." Across the room, Evelyn stood behind the dessert table, ladling cider into paper cups. She caught Cole's eye and smiled. It was a soft smile, an easy one. The kind that came from a woman who had finally stopped looking over her shoulder. She was learning to be a mother again, one ordinary day at a time. And every day, the shadows that used to live in her eyes grew a little fainter. Noah stood beside her, helping hand out plates. He had changed most of all. The boy who once held his shoulders so tight, always bracing, always afraid, now stood loose and easy. He laughed with the other kids his age. He looked people in the eye. Grease still lived under his fingernails because he spent most Saturdays in Cole's garage now, learning everything the older man could teach him. When Noah saw Cole, he broke away from the table and crossed the room. "Hey," Noah said. "Glad you made it. Wouldn't be anywhere else." They stood together a moment, watching the little party swirl around them. The fiddle played. Children danced. Somewhere a baby laughed. Then Noah's face grew serious. He looked down at his shoes, then back up, gathering himself the way he did when something mattered. "Can I ask you something?" "Anything." Noah drew a breath. "Are you going to stay? I mean, really stay? In our lives?" His voice caught. "'Cause everybody who was supposed to stay, they left. My dad, my mom, even if it wasn't her fault. And I keep waiting for the day you don't come around anymore. I keep waiting for the truck to pull away and just not come back." Cole felt that tightness in his throat. the one that had never fully gone away, only softened into something he no longer feared. He put a hand on Noah's shoulder. Firm. Steady. Listen to me, Cole said. Family ain't about blood. It ain't about promises somebody made once and forgot. Family is a choice you make every single morning. You wake up and you choose these people, again and again. You show up. You stay through the hard stuff. That's what makes it real. He squeezed the boy's shoulder. So no, I'm not gonna leave. Not because I have to stay, because I want to. Every day I'm gonna choose you, and Lily, and your mama. That's a promise you can hold on to. Noah's eyes went shiny. Then he stepped in and hugged Cole tight, the way a son hugs a father. And Cole held on. The next morning came bright and clear. A whole year had passed since a barefoot little girl had burst through those diner doors, clutching a stuffed rabbit and screaming words that changed everything. 1 year since Cole Bennett had looked into her frightened eyes and chosen, for the first time in a long time, to care. Now he pulled his truck into the gravel lot of that same roadside diner. The place looked just as it always had. The faded sign buzzed overhead. The red vinyl booths still lined the windows. The smell of bacon and coffee drifted out the door the second Lily pushed it open. "Come on, Mr. Cole," she called, tugging his hand. "Ruth's saving us the good booth." Noah followed behind, taller now, his hands shoved in his jacket pockets. He looked around the diner slow, the way a person does when they are remembering something big. "This is where it started," Noah said quietly. "Right here." Cole nodded. "Right here." Ruth met them at the counter, her apron dusted with flour, her face lit up like a porch light. "Well, if it ain't my favorite family," she said. She scooped Lily into a hug, then pointed them toward the corner booth, the very same one where a lonely man had once sat with his back to the wall, waiting for a reason to leave. Today, Cole slid into that booth and did not think about leaving at all. They ate pancakes. Lily drowned hers in so much syrup that Noah laughed and swiped one off her plate before it floated away. Cole drank his coffee and listened to the two of them argue about which cartoon was the best, and something warm settled deep in his chest. Something that used to feel foreign. Now it just felt like home. Ruth stopped by with the coffee pot. She looked at Cole a long moment before she spoke. "You know," she said, "when that little girl came running in here last fall, screaming her head off, I remember thinking she picked the scariest man in the room to grab hold of." She smiled, her eyes going soft. "Turns out she picked the right one." Cole ducked his head. He was not a man who took a compliment easy, but he let this one land. "She picked me," he said. "I just didn't have the sense to run away like everybody expected." Ruth patted his shoulder and moved on to fill another cup. When breakfast was done, they stepped back out into the crisp autumn air. Cole's motorcycle sat beside the truck, chrome gleaming in the morning sun. Lily ran straight to it the way she always did. "Can I sit on it? Please, please," Cole chuckled. "Long as you keep those feet on the pegs and hold on tight." He lifted her up onto the seat, her small hands gripping the handlebars, buttons wedged safe between her arms. She grinned so wide her whole face crinkled up. Noah crouched beside the front wheel, wiping a smudge off the fender with his sleeve, checking the brake line the way Cole had taught him. Grease under his nails, focus in his eyes. A boy who had once carried the whole world on his shoulders now had someone standing right beside him to help hold it. Cole stood there in the parking lot of the diner that had changed his life, and he looked at them. At Lily, kicking her feet and pretending to rev the engine, laughing at the sky. At Noah, working close and easy, glancing up now and then just to make sure Cole was still there. And Cole always was. For most of his life, Cole had believed strength meant standing alone. keeping people at a distance so they could not be hurt. So he could not be hurt. He had worn his armor for 25 years, sure that being needed was the only worth he had. But standing here, in the cool morning light, he finally understood. Real strength was not walking away to keep people safe. Real strength was letting them come close, letting them love him, choosing to stay, even when staying meant your heart could break. He rested one hand on Lily's shoulder and the other on Noah's back. And he stayed. I hope you like this story. Please share what's your favorite part of the story and where in the world you are watching from. Have a wonderful day.